Hello everyone. Today in this video I am going to explain the doctrine in Indian Constitution. In this video I have explained 12 type of doctrines with their leading case laws. So let us understand the meaning of doctrines. A doctrine is a belief, principle or position usually upheld by authorities like courts. As far as Indian judiciary is concerned, there are many doctrines of which some are very popular amongst law students like basic structure doctrine and many more. So we will start with doctrine of basic structure. The basic structure doctrine is an Indian judicial principle that the Constitution of India has certain basic features that cannot be altered or destroyed through amendments by the Parliament. But what should be considered as the basic feature of the Indian Constitution is not explicitly defined by the judiciary. It is widely believed that democracy, federalism, independence of judiciary, secularism, etc. are the part of basic features. This doctrine was first expressed in the landmark case of Keshwanand Bharti versus State of Kerala in 1973. Doctrine of Harmonious Construction. This doctrine was brought about to bring harmony between the different lists mentioned in 7th schedule of the Indian Constitution. However, there can be a situation where an entry of one list overlaps with that of another list. This is a time when the doctrine comes into the picture. It was said that the words of entry should be given wide amplitude and the courts shall bring harmony between the different entries and lists. Supreme Court applied this doctrine in the case of Tika Ramji versus State of Uttar Pradesh. Doctrine of Eclipse. The doctrine states that if any law becomes contradictory to the fundamental rights, then it does not permanently die but becomes inactive. When a court strikes a part of the law, it becomes unenforceable. Hence, an eclipse is said to be cast on it. The law just becomes invalid but continues to exist. The eclipse is removed when another, probably a higher level court, makes the law valid again or an amendment is brought to it by a way of legislation. Supreme Court first applied this doctrine in the case of Bhikaji versus State of Madhya Pradesh, where it applied to pre-constitutional law. Doctrine of Pith and Substance. Pith and substance means the true nature of law. This doctrine comes into picture when there is a conflict between the different subjects in the different list. There is an interpretation of list 1 and list 2 of the Constitution of India. There can be a situation where a subject of one list touch the subject of another list. Hence this doctrine is applied then. The reason for the adoption of this doctrine is that if every legislation were to be declared invalid on the grounds that it encroached the powers, the power of legislature would be drastically reduced. It was applied by the Supreme Court in the case of State of Bombay versus F.N. Balsar. Doctrine of Incidental and Ancillary Powers. This principle is an addition to the doctrine of Pith and Substance. What it means is that power to legislate on a subject also includes the power to legislate on ancillary matter that are reasonably connected to the subject. For an example, the power to impose tax would include power to search and seizure to prevent the evasion of that tax. However, power relating to banking cannot be extended to include power related to non-banking entities. As held in the case of State of Rajasthan versus G. Chawla, the power to legislate on a topic includes power to legislate on an ancillary matter which can be said to be reasonably included in the topic. Doctrine of Colourable Legislation. This is applied when the legislature enacting the law has transgressed its power as is mentioned in the Constitution. This expression colorable legislation simply means what cannot be done directly cannot be done indirectly too. Hence, there are certain situations when it seems that it is within the power of the legislature enacting the law, but actually it is transgressing. This is when this doctrine comes into the picture. It was applied by the Supreme Court in the case of State of Bihar versus Kameshwar Singh and it was held that Bihar Land Reforms Act was invalid. Doctrine of severability. According to this doctrine, if there is any offending part in the statute, then only the offending part is declared void and not the entire statute. Article 13 states that the portion that is invalid should be struck off and not the entire one. The valid part can be kept. However, it should be kept in mind that even after separation, the remaining part should not become ambiguous. If the remaining part becomes ambiguous, then the whole statute would be declared void and of no use. Supreme Court in the case of RMDC versus Union of India states that the doctrine of severability is a matter of substance and not of form. Doctrine of Territorial Nexus. Article 245 states that a state legislature can make laws on the territory of the state and not on the extraterritorial laws, provided that there is a nexus or connection between the state and the object of the legislation. Article 245 Clause 1 states that the Parliament of India can make laws for the whole or any territory of India. Such laws cannot be declared invalid on the ground that they are extraterritorial according to Article 245 Section 2. To determine whether a particular legislation is within the territorial nexus or not, this doctrine is applied. Supreme Court applied this doctrine in the case of Tata Iron Steel versus the state of Bihar. Doctrine of Laches. Laches mean delay. The doctrine of Laches is based on the maxim that equity aids the vigilant and not those who slumber on their rights. Elements of Laches include knowledge of claim, unreasonable delay, neglect, which taken together hurt the opponent. It is well known that one who wants remedy must come before the court within a reasonable time. Lapse of time violates equity and it is against the concept of justice. Hence, the issue came up whether delay can be a ground to deny fundamental rights under Article 32. It was said that denial of fundamental rights only on the ground of delay is not justified, as fundamental rights are basic and very essential for the development of the individual. Supreme Court under the case of Ravindra Jain versus Union of India stated that remedy under Article 32 can be denied on the grounds of unreasonable delay. Doctrine of Repugnancy. The term repugnancy means inconsistency between the state made law and union made law. Article 254 established the doctrine of repugnancy, which act as a safeguard to solve dispute arising between state and union. M. Karunanidhi versus Union of India is one of the most authoritative judgment on the doctrine of repugnancy. Supreme Court summarized test and principle of repugnancy. Doctrine of Judicial Review. Article 13. Judicial review refers to the power of the judiciary to interpret the constitution and to declare any such law or order of legislature and executive void if it finds them in conflict with the Constitution of India. Judicial review is used by both Supreme Court and High Courts. The foundation of Indian Supreme Court review power was laid firmly in A.K. Gopalan versus State of Madras case.